Business and Financial Raw Talk, a no-holds-barred forum for leaders and innovators with award-winning business strategist and financial analyst, LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group. With Raw Talk, we are empowering women to rise and succeed in business and finances, and improve the world for the next generation. Get ready to get raw and real. Live each Tuesday at 6 p.m. Eastern on e360tv.com.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Business and Financial Raw Talk. I am LaWanna Bradford and I am excited because this week is National Small Business Week. Think about that. When we think about small businesses, those solopreneurs, entrepreneurs that are out there, and again, small businesses that are earning as a revenue generating, under a certain dollar cap, these companies, these businesses, these individuals are really the backbone of our economy. It's just really amazing to see that we know about the great resignation, right? The number of individuals who decided during the height of the pandemic, we're still kind of in the pandemic, but even, post pandemic frenzy, when the world opened back up, more and more individuals are finding themselves exploring the ranks of entrepreneurship. In fact, women are rising in numbers. We have 42% of businesses are owned by women. 42%. That's pretty amazing. And when you compare that 42% to where we were 20 years ago, it's 114% growth rate. So women are feeling empowered. They're ready to take their dreams and to make things happen for themselves, right? They're not sitting back waiting for someone to make it happen for them. The other thing that we found is African American women are really rising in the rank of entrepreneurship. In fact, when you're looking at the proportionately speaking, our numbers are just growing leaps and bounds in the entrepreneurial rank. In fact, in 2021, just going back to women overall, and I'm speaking specifically to these stats are women in the U.S., 47% of new businesses in 2021, 47% were started by women. And in 2019, it was 28%. So before the pandemic, so just think about it, before the pandemic, 2019, you had 28% of women starting their own business, and in 2021, 47%. And what I found is there are so many opportunities that are out there. An individual by the name of Jim McCracken, he was a multimillionaire who I met, probably 30 years ago. And whenever I'm around people who have achieved certain levels, I always want to ask a question. And I remember asking him, I said, Mr. McCracken, if you were to tell me one thing, if you were to give me one piece of advice as a business owner, what would you say to me? And he looked at me and he said, well, that's really simple. I would tell you to remember that there is never, ever a lack of money. There's only a lack of knowledge and resources. And ladies and gentlemen, when I heard that, that instantly shifted my mindset. I mean, you talk about an instant paradigm shift. And I have forever stayed wedded to that concept, to that notion, to that truth, knowing that there is never a lack of money. There is abundance all around us. There is wealth all around us. There are opportunities all around us. But the question is, what are you saying to yourself? What is your mind saying to yourself? Are you allowing those limited thoughts, those restrictive thoughts, as Bird Smith Lyons often says, that bubble talk, to cause you to think that there's not enough, or that it's this dog-eat-dog world out there when it comes to growing and blossoming in business? See, when you shift your mindset and you're able to really celebrate why you're in business and you are owning that stage that you are operating in, then the world opens up. You're looking for those opportunities. You're looking for, you're not looking at life as, oh, it's full of stumbling blocks, but no, these are stepping stones taking me from the next opportunity to the next opportunity. This is a door that may introduce me to someone who has the resources, the partnerships, the suppliers that I need to help build and expand my business. One of the things that I found is in my journey, I don't tell my story as much as I should. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I've been in business for over 30 years, both pure serial entrepreneur, meaning 100% in the entrepreneurial lanes, and also as a dualpreneur, working both in corporate and managing my businesses. My very first business was a licensed sporting apparel store. And I talked to my partner to this day. We've been partners, business partners for over 30 years. And his name is Rick Span. And we always talk about how much we learned during the old days in business. We learned so much about buying, selling, positioning, marketing, advertising, promoting, merchandising, identifying our customer, understanding the competition, learning the industry, how to navigate the industry, the legal side of business, the accounting side of business, right? The economics of it all. And I've taken those lessons that I learned back then when I was a little green bean, and I've carried them forward in everything that I do in business. And I tell people that success leaves clues. So here we are right now celebrating National Small Business Week. And I want you to ask yourself, if you are in business for yourself, this is a nice time. This week is a nice time to do a self-inventory, to ask yourself the question, why did I get into business in the first place? Did you do it to just create a job for yourself? You were sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you said, well, let me jump ship and do my own business. That could have been the catalyst. But ask yourself honestly, why did you get into business? And then ask yourself if that why is the same motivating factor that is driving you today. Because sometimes you may have jumped ship. Maybe you were sick and tired. But now your why could be something else. Your why could be your family. Your why could be the legacy that you want to live. The why can be your communities that you want to impact. Why did you get in business, and why are you in business now? Has it changed? Has it shifted? Is it the same thing? Then I want you to ask yourself, how many people know that story? How many people know your why? And is your why so tied up into your emotion that you are so wedded to it that nothing is going to detract you from your why? You're going to stay laser focused because that why is so critical to you. Your why is what helps you to solidify the likelihood of your success. Then I want you to ask yourself where you are right now and whatever those dreams and visions were that you had when you first started business. Again, this is just a self-inventory. Did I create a business? Did I create this economic engine that is fueling my community, that is helping to employ other people? Or did I create a job for myself? Is my business so dependent on me that if I don't show up every single day, the business will end up shutting down? The business cannot operate without me leading, doing, and being very much wedded to the operations of the business. Then I want you to ask yourself, wherever you stand in your business, you could be new, you could be seasoned. Are you creating opportunity in your business for others? Is your business creating opportunity for your customers, for the workforce, for your suppliers? What are those opportunities? And how can you overlay these opportunities, these doorways of opportunity, to create strategy to help you strategically position yourself in a way that makes your customers, your potential customers, your suppliers, your partners, your strategic partners lean in, right? I want to tell you a little bit about my story when it comes to the Bradford Group, which is a commercial and investment mortgage company. And we started off as a DBA, doing business as, in 2005. And then in 2006, we became an LLC as the Bradford Group. And things were going great from 2005 to 2007. It was booming. I think for most people in the mortgage industry, we were doing really well. But then the 2007, 2008 mortgage crisis hit, and things started spiraling quickly out of control. Things got so bad that we had to decide, what were we going to do to survive? My brother, who was the CEO at the time, and he had actually founded the Bradford Group, and I came on from corporate, leaving corporate, and I wanted to join him and be that compliance officer, making sure that he had all the guidelines and regulations in place. And at that time, we had a workforce of 18 loan officers, and we had our processors in place and our compliance team in place, and we had a marketing team in place. Again, life was really good. We had a great office in downtown Atlanta on Peachtree Street. It was a beautiful, beautiful loft overlooking the downtown area. But as I mentioned, the crisis, things got a little scary. And at that time, my brother, he and his wife, they made a decision. It's like, whoa, it's getting a little dicey here. We've got these two little babies. And he said, and he gave me a very short window of notice that, LaWanna, I'm going to leave the business. Well, at that time, he had all the licensing. I didn't. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're about to leave the business, and now what? How am I going to eat? And so you have to do what you have to do to survive, right? So I quickly did accelerated courses so that I could get my licensing in time, keep the doors open. But I'm still dealing with a market that is crashing around me. My lenders are no longer lending, or if they were lending, the guidelines were so stringent that none of my borrowers could qualify. So if your borrowers can't qualify and you can't close a loan, then what does that mean? You're not making any money. Well, remember I said I have these employees, and I didn't have the heart to let them go. I'm like, okay, there's got to be a way we can make this work. Surely things are going to start turning around, and maybe we'll cut some of their commissions a little bit, but I did not want to let them go. And so I did what you should never do, is I robbed from my future to create security for my staff at that time. And what I mean when I say I robbed from my future, I pulled out of my retirement funds, my investments accounts, and I used that to pay salaries. Like I said, as in small business, sometimes you do what you have to do. Hindsight, like I said, there's lessons learned along the way. If I were going to do it again, I would have tried to protect as many jobs as I could. But I would have, if knowing that I would have to ultimately let them go, I would have done some smaller severance packages rather than literally every 2 weeks doing paychecks to individuals. Because at that time, all of my employees, they were W-2. So fast forward, I have exhausted all of our funds, all of my funds. Like I said, I robbed from my future to create stability for my workforce, which ultimately I had to end up letting them go anyway. And my account my retirement account, which was over $1 million at the time, had drawn down to $7,500. I was panicked because, again, trying to figure out how am I going to keep this ship afloat, because the captain had bailed, right? So how do I keep it afloat? And sometimes we have to swallow our pride and be willing to ask for help. So I went to mom and dad and I said, okay, this is the situation. This is a decision I made, probably not the best, but now I have $7,500 to my name. I have this mortgage. I have this business debt. I have all these other liabilities, associated with running the business. And all I have left is my home. And my dad said, well, go ahead and sell your home. And I'm like, I can't. This is everything that I have left. Because at that time I had let all of my rental properties. It's like, let's get away from these as quickly as we can, because I didn't want to be upside down in that debt. And so my dad told me, he said, and I'm just being very transparent. He's like, okay, LaWanna, what I want you to do, and they were here in Atlanta visiting, and he said, I want you to bring all your bills and I want you to put them on the table for us. And I just felt like so violated in a sense. I'm like, what do you mean? I got to bring everything. I got to expose everything. He said, well, if you're asking for our help, we need to see where the money is going and what needs to be paid and what does not. And so he looked at everything and they agreed that they would pay my mortgage. They would make sure my utilities were paid and that I had food, but that the financial obligations that the business had incurred, they weren't going to pay for that. They said, we're going to make sure that you are okay. Your business, that's your responsibility. So, I didn't argue with them. I was just so grateful to have a mom and dad who could afford to do that. And it was interesting because not only did they do it for me, remember my brother, they had to also do it for him. So my parents are paying for 2 mortgages that was not their own, to make sure their children were safeguarded. So then we fast forward, and I ended up, during this time of great lack, I ended up being sued by a major bank. Well, I didn't have the means to afford an attorney. So this is where you talk to people who know more than you do. And I ended up representing myself. I was coached on how to show up in court and how to defend my case. And even it was a legitimate charge. It's like, we want this debt. We want it paid in full now. And I'm like, I don't have it. You're asking me for something that just, you can't pull from an empty well. And so I went to court and I ended up winning. And to this day, I'm still marveled. In fact, I kept all of the documents from that case just to remind me from where I came from, to remind me that when you humble yourself, when you seek for help, when you find the right resources to help equip you, no matter how difficult that battle is, you can be like David and Goliath, and you can rise up as the victor. And I came out of that victoriously. Well, I'm still trying to hold on to this business because, again, this is how LaWanna is eating. And I thought, well, how do I do this? Well, the first thing is, let's look at how can we reposition. So one of the things that I talk a lot about is repositioning to remain relevant. So still staying in my business lane of mortgages, but realizing the residential side was not really the ideal place to be. And so at that time, I started talking and consulting with my business partner, who wasn't in the Bradford group, but we were still partners. And he was telling me, he said, have you thought about the commercial side? Not really. Well, he had been delving in the commercial piece. And so he started coaching me, which thank God he was willing to do so at no cost. And I realized, wait a minute, we can shift, not pivot. We're shifting the product offering from residential and let's go into commercial and let's go into the investment space. And that's where we are today. So during this National Small Business Month, am celebrating. I'm celebrating the trials, but I'm also celebrating the triumphs. I'm celebrating the victories, because if it had not been from those trials, I wouldn't have known what I was made of. I wouldn't have known the resources that were there. I wouldn't have known how strong and how resilient I was, because I believed in what we were doing. I knew that sometimes you have such a knowing. I knew this was the lane that I needed to be in, but it's like, how do I make it work? Because everything around me is crashing. How do I make it work? Well, create a different product. And sometimes that's what we have to do. It's not about you doing something different, but it's a different product in that lane. Or maybe you're reaching a different audience that you hadn't thought about. So I ask you, are you celebrating your business? Have you celebrated your business? We have to look at those little wins along the way. Yeah, those big wins are going to come every now and then. It's like, I'm going to have those major loans, right? You're going to close a $5 million loan or a $10 million loan. But when I looked at what our business was built on, it was built on those smaller loans. So it's like, how do we get more of that? How do we attract more of this pool of individuals right now while we create the sustainability that we need in our business in order to do more? Because if you're struggling and you're floundering, it's really hard to get in that creative space. It's really hard to get your mind energized to think of new ideas, because you're just trying to figure out, how am I going to survive? So I want to challenge you who are listening. Are you celebrating your business? Go back, look at that wall of remembrance. Sometimes we forget all that we've been through and all that we've overcome. And I just want to remind you that every challenge that you've had up until this point and that you have overcome, you've overcome all of them successfully. Think about it. You've gone through some things. You've grown through some things. You've expanded through some things. You have a deeper understanding and appreciation of the journey. And through this journey, you're now able to be a teacher, to be an influencer, to help inspire and motivate others. Through your learned mistakes, through your lived experiences, you can help people navigate the obstacle course a little bit better, right? You can help them go from glory to glory, to find those stepping stones when all they can see in their mind's eye are stumbling blocks. I want to go over in this final section is I want to talk about 7 of the lessons learned. But before I do so, I want to show, let me move this banner here. I want to show one of our promo videos. Welcome back to Business and Financial Raw Talk. It is National Small Business Week, and we are talking about, are you celebrating your business? And I gave you a little backstory about my business and with the mortgages and the tough road that we went through. But I also, before I go into these lessons, I got some just amazing things that have happened just this year alone. Because of, well, I want to say in the last 3 years, but especially this year, because of that journey, it helps you to build credibility, right? It's kind of that grit integrity that other business owners and partners see. Now, when I tell the story and I'm like, yeah, we were in the 2007, 2008 and we survived, and it's 17 years now, I instantly get more attention. So I want you to, and that's item number 7. We're going to go into that, telling your story. But I want to share with you, again, this is about celebrating some great things that have happened. So 2 months ago, we launched our Business in Action magazine. And this was the first one. And here's the second one that came out. And I'm so excited about this because this magazine is designed to create lanes of empowerment for women and men in business. In fact, this very first issue, we're talking about how do you protect your business from inflation? How do you unlock your prey drive? Tap into those instincts to win, right? Where I was saying you want to be so committed, so laser focused, as Abraham Hicks says, so tapped and tuned and turned on that nothing's going to distract you. The different tactics to build wealth in this particular article talks about getting the right mindset to achieve success. So that's what this book is about. It's about easy to read, articles with steps, with solutions, with known business experts out there. Here's one article: 5 ways to get media coverage for your business. So these are the types of things that we wanted to make sure that we were able to do in our business, is to showcase not only are we mortgage professionals and experts in our industry, but we're also business experts and we're strategists. And we wanted to have a product that would speak to that. And this magazine, it's complimentary. We're not selling the magazine, which I love, because we love just giving and sharing. This one here is dealing with what I just talked about, the power of resilience. This is our recent magazine. And another part here talks about the so what factor. And so when you're thinking about celebrating your business, you want to think about why you're here. What impact, influence are you making? That ultimately will lead to income, but first, what impact and influence you're making. The 7 lessons that I want to leave with you is: number 1, as you grow and as you expand in your business, again, whether you're new or seasoned, these I have found in my 30 years as a serial entrepreneur and 17 years as Chief Operating Officer of the Bradford Group, I have found these to be proven tenets for us in our success. And it's something we talk about with the team a lot. And the first is the industry. You want to be a student of your industry. You want to know everything that's going on. You want to know the trends that are happening, right? Those mega trends that are happening in your industry, and how those trends are impacting you or may impact you, or how those trends may influence your clients' buying decisions. You want to understand what your competitors are doing. Are there some innovations that they're putting in place? One of the things that we were blessed with in the mortgage industry is automation came very early in our industry. I mean, 17 years ago, we were using, e-signatures and your DocuSign type platforms to help improve the efficiency of our business. So you want to really be a student of your industry. And I'm surprised to find, when I speak to small business owners and I ask them, well, what's going on in your industry? Sometimes I get a deer in the headlights look. Sometimes I get, well, I think, but I mean, do you know? Have you become a student of your industry? Are you reading industry magazines? Are you part of your industry groups? LinkedIn is a great place to connect with those individuals that are in your lane. Do not be afraid of the quote unquote competition. You want to be around individuals who are making it happen in your respective industry. It's iron sharpening iron, right? You can learn the lessons from those who've been there and done that. The other thing is you want to assess, this is number 2, your risk tolerance. What is your risk tolerance? How adverse is your business to risk? That's real important when you're thinking about your budgeting and your promotion cost and different lanes where you may be exploring, or perhaps you're looking at new markets. What is your risk? Are you having those conversations? Are you assessing it? Right? Because there is always going to be some modicum of risk to any decision we make. And what is it? And are you okay with it? So looking at worst case scenario, it could be this. Best case, it could be that. Middle of the road, which is more than likely where you're going to land, it's going to be this. But you want to have those risk conversations. When you think about big businesses, they have enterprise risk management conversations, right? Again, enterprise wide, they're assessing the risk. They want to mitigate the risk. They want to put strategies in place. The other thing, number 3, is your partnerships. Whether it's an official legal partner in your business or it's that strategic partnership, it's okay to evaluate these partnerships. Whether you're evaluating them every year, every other year, are they the right partner for you at that time? All partnerships aren't meant to last forever and ever. Some may. You may be lucky, like I am, to have a partner like Rick Span, where we've been partners for over 30 years. Those are rare. Then you may have your strategic partners, where it may be project driven, right? Or for a particular cause. It could be some sort of bartering exchange that you're able to do. But you want to evaluate these partnerships and determine, as you enter into, and I encourage you, enter into an official partnership agreement, what is the exit strategy for it? Because it should be a win-win, and there should be an exit strategy should one person feel, okay, this is no longer serving me, or I'm choosing to go in a different lane, different direction. You want to have those conversations up front. The other strategic success principle that I found is mentors and leaders. Find the leaders in your industry, your local leaders, leaders on a regional, national scale, even global scale. Who are these leaders? Who are these influencers? What made them so? What are they saying? What messages are they putting out? Do these messages resonate with you? And if you feel that you need a mentor in a particular area, how do you decide which mentor is the right mentor? Just because someone has experience in a certain lane doesn't mean they're the right person to mentor you. And you have to determine, do you really need a mentor? Or do you need a coach? Or do you need a consultant? At any given time, all three are valid during your business journey. But what is it that you need? And again, how long is that relationship going to be with them? If you're looking for that long-term mentorship, again, have you identified what it is that you want to get out of it? How do you measure success as it relates to that relationship and what's being imparted to you and your ability to execute? Then the next principle is number 5 is asking the questions. I cannot emphasize how important it is to ask questions. You don't know what you don't know. So you start to ask. I mean, if something just seems a little confusing, ask a question. And then that answer is going to give you another opportunity to ask another question. You want to be able to ask the right questions as they come to you so that you can make the best and wisest decision for you and your business. The other thing is positioning. And before I get into positioning and what it means to remain relevant, I'm going to show another video. The one thing that I'm excited about, you saw at the bottom of the video was showing as featured in, and you saw the major media and Market Watch and EXOD, E360 is another area where we've been seen in. And what that means is we've gotten out there, we've gotten the third party endorsements, the publicity, the press releases, the interviews that further validate who we say we are. Because again, as you go to the next level and you're trying to partner with individuals who are at a higher echelon than you are at the moment, doesn't mean you're not going to get there. They're going to vet you. They're going to want to see, are you who you say you are? And third party endorsements goes a long way. So that brings me to another story. I was talking about the celebration, celebrating this by Business in Action magazine. This week, well, I had a meeting this week, but that week was initiated by one of my lending partners. And I received a phone call and they said, LaWanna, we've just been watching you over the years and we've been doing some research and looking at, where you're going and some of the things that you're saying. Have you thought about becoming a lender? I thought, wow. And the reason why I paused was I had that conversation 4 years ago. In 2018, another lending partner had approached me about becoming a correspondent lender. And I was very interested, but I said, at that time wasn't quite certain. And then the pandemic hits and, I hadn't made a decision. And sometimes the hardest thing we can do is to decide, right? And so I started celebrating, knowing that, wow, this opportunity has come around again, right? This opportunity to be a correspondent lender. So not only is there the Bradford Group brokerage, but I could possibly have another company, an independent company that is now lending, right? Is now the actual money source, not brokering to a respective source. So we met this week, great meeting. I'm real excited about it, but I have to do my due diligence because I don't know what I don't know, right? So I'm going to be meeting with my accountant, meeting with my attorney, meeting with other individuals who I know that are in that correspondent lending space to better understand what are the risks. What does this new lane in the industry look like? How do I navigate it? How do I market this? Because again, it's the same industry, right? I'm marketing a mortgage product, but this time I'm marketing the finances associated with the product. So going back to everything that I just said, I'm talking about the industry. I'm talking about I need to evaluate the risk. This now becomes a different level of partnership relationship. If I agree to this lender that yes, I'll be a correspondent lender, it involves me having the necessary mentors and leaders who've done this so that I can understand how to do it and to minimize the hiccups along the way. It opens the door, as I mentioned, for me to ask the right question, and it positions me in a space of remaining relevant, right? So I've got the mortgage services that I offer, but then I'm offering the financial services. So again, this isn't a done deal yet, but I'm just sharing. I'm excited. I'm celebrating this week. This happened during National Small Business Week. Actually happened yesterday. We're only on Tuesday. But it happened yesterday to have this conversation and to think, wow, this courtship is happening, and if done right, and if it's the right timing, it can open up so many other doors, right? Including another revenue stream that's not just a transactional revenue stream, but there's also a residual component attached to that. And that's for another conversation, but that gets me celebrating, right? I see that all the efforting that we've done over the years, all the pain, all the pushing, all leveling up, having this resilient mindset, it's coming to pay off. The rewards are coming through, and I'm just real excited about that. And then finally, number 7, And this is what I've been doing, kind of serpentining my way through this. It's all about telling your story and telling your story in a compelling way that it causes people to lean in, because you never know who's listening, whether it's your clients, that prospective client, that prospective partner, right? That strategic relationship, that supplier, they're listening. People are watching you. And so you want to always think about those wins. Remember, I said find those small wins and then start spinning them into stories, into messages that become those little subtle hooks to someone who will say, you know what, I want a little bit more. I want to learn a little bit more. You said you did this. Now, how did you do that? How did you survive the 2007, 2008? How did you build this relationship? How did you start this magazine? Who are your writers? I mean, it just opens up a bigger door of communication, right? And telling your story builds credibility because it showcases your journey. And sometimes people only want to tell the good side. But it's okay to say, our business went through hell and back, but we survived, right? We were thrown into the ocean and we didn't really know how to swim with the waves, but we learned how to tread water, and eventually we learned how to ride the waves. It's okay to tell those stories. People like a good story. People like to hear that you triumphed over something. And also people want to hear that you care. They want to know that you're supporting causes that matter. The Bradford Group, we support two international charities, Help Heal Humanity, that works with children and education in Haiti, as well as the Healing Forest. And this is an organization that does similar things, but in Africa. We also are huge advocates and supporters of our veterans. So our wounded veterans and our veterans overall. We also support our children here in the U.S. with Toys for Tots and Feed the Homeless programs. And it's okay to share that. It's okay to say, hey, we're an organization that serves and provides a service and solves a problem. And we celebrate that we can do it well, and we can do it efficiently, and we can do it competitively. But we also celebrate the fact that we're able to take from our proceeds and give back. We're able to take from our proceeds and pay it forward. We're able to take from our proceeds and mentor and coach and help others. One of the things that our broader Bradford Group Network does is mentoring. We've been involved in SCORE, which is the Service Corps of Retired Executives, providing strategies and tips and solutions and resources to small business owners, as well as my mind went just totally blank right now, as well as Goodwill of Georgia. We've worked with their small business platform and worked with several entrepreneurs and watched them grow and expand. So there's so many ways that you can get involved in your community, where you can make a difference, where you can give back, and then also positioning yourself in a place where you want to learn, you want to grow, and you want to expand. So with that, I want to just say thank you so very much for taking your time to join me on this Business and Financial Raw Talk as we celebrate National Small Business Week. If you are a small business owner and entrepreneur out there, I wish you much success. I encourage you to tap into the 7 lessons to know your industry, to evaluate your risk, know your risk tolerance, to identify and assess who are your partners, and is it working for you, or is it time to let some of those partnerships go? To assess what mentors and leaders are around you and are influencing you. To be willing to ask the questions, to not be fearful of, well, what if someone thinks I don't know? Well, you don't know. So ask the questions. to position yourself to always be relevant. And I do a whole separate training on what that means. But understand that as long as you remain relevant, your opportunities for success are going to be quite abundant. And then lastly, and I think really most importantly, is be willing to tell your story, to tell the great triumphs and successes that you've gone through, as well as the hurdles and struggles that you've overcome. Stories are invaluable. Stories are priceless. Stories change lives. Stories are memorable. And you want to always be memorable and have an indelible impression wherever you go. So I want to leave you with how I close all the time. Remember that in life and in business, when your vision intersects with opportunity, I truly believe success is inevitable. I am LaWanna Bradford with the Bradford Group, and I look forward to seeing you next week for another edition of Business and Financial Raw Talk, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Until then, have a blessed week and get the word out. Let people know it is National Business Week. Go out and support a small business. Take care. Bye, everyone.